That took a long time to disappear. I thought I had to click something. I'm pretty sure it happens automatically. Welcome, everyone. This is just a few weeks now. We've done later live streams than we would do ordinarily because we have some very special guests. And today is no exception to that because we are joined by the one and only David Pereira, fresh from his the phenomenal success of his first book. He's here to join us to share some information with us, field my questions and field your questions. So, David, thank you so much for coming along. How are you?
Thanks for inviting me. I'm doing good. It's been quite an intense week, but I'm good. All good.
Yeah, and the book has been gathering positive reviews, I hear. I see.
Yeah, I'm getting such a positive resonance. It's quite inspiring. And it's not only the reviews, like what readers write to me. The other day, I got a message that actually touched me. A reader said, I always felt powerless and I felt I couldn't do anything because the circumstances were blocking me. But then I read a few of your stories and I started acting and I learned I can change. And
Brilliant.
I was really excited about it because that's what the book is all about, helping people to do something today for a better tomorrow.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm not even going to ask you the question if you've already started writing your second book, because let's focus on today. Let's get today done. We can think about that another day. So everyone who's watching on LinkedIn and on YouTube, because actually you get a fair few people watching on YouTube. If you have any questions, any thoughts that come up, please do put them into the chat. And as we go through, we'll make sure that we answer those questions. So any questions you have for David about his book or any of the great work he does on bullshit management or anything else, do feel free to put this into the chat and we'll absolutely get round to those. Or if you just want to say hi, let us know where you are in the world, perhaps where you are watching us. Are you in your living room? Are you in the kitchen cooking dinner? Wherever it might be, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But we're going to start off this live stream today with David giving us a bit of a blast of some, I'm pretty sure some pretty impressive material. But I'll let everyone be the judge of that. So, David, what is it you're going to be sharing with us for the first part of this live stream?
I share stories. So some insights, give some ideas, and then maybe you can get some on them and apply on your scenario. That's what I'm gonna do.
Awesome. Well, David, I will. If you want to share your screen, I will push the buttons, and we'll make it magically appear.
Perfect. Just doing it.
Hold on.
All right, so we are live, I guess. So time to share. And here we go then.
Yes.
So what I have here for you, I've been thinking. It's about a conversation that reflects on what happened over the last 15 years of my journey. Some takeaways. Because one of the questions I'm quite bugged is how can you drive value when almost everyone distracts you? And I will share some stories with you. Don't worry, I don't want to make you feel powerless. Actually, I just want to help you face reality and then uncover what you can do differently. So let's start with something here. One of my realizations of this road of creating digital products is that expectations and reality, they generally go in opposite directions. And what am I talking about here? Let's say you apply for a new job. It doesn't matter what is written in the job description. It doesn't matter what people tell you in the interview. Once you get the job and you start working, you're gonna realize there are some things you don't like, and you didn't know that from the job description. You didn't know that from the interview. And that's part of life. And yet you have to drive value. So the thing is, how can you drive value in all of this confusion? So let me share a few things that happened with me. I started playing this game, creating digital products in 2008. Back then, I was a software engineer. And one thing that disturbed me, almost every day I would get a list of things to do, requirements to implement, promises to fulfill. And I didn't understand what they were for. So I asked several questions. And I asked why? Why do we need that? I learned the technique, the 5 whys. So I kept using that all the time. It didn't take long to get a nickname, Mr. Why. And what happened in my life is I would get answers like, because the boss said so, because sales promised, or because it's in the roadmap. And some people would just tell me, hey, you are a developer, just code. That's your job. It's not your job to ask questions. So, story of my life, chasing unsatisfactory answers. But something was about to change. 2012, I got the chance of becoming a product manager. What excited me about that was at this time, I would be able to ensure that software engineers, product designers, and whoever would work on the product, they would know which problem we were trying to solve, the opportunity we were trying to pursue, knowing the why, and then together we would craft the what. I was promised that I would be something like the CEO of the product. I would make decisions about the future and so on. But the reality was a bit different. I soon became a backlog manager. I had to talk to stakeholders, gather their wants, put in the backlog, and work with timelines and all of this. And the hard way, I realized that the wants from business stakeholders don't go hand in hand with the needs from customers. But life can be surprising. Something changed. 2016, I got a chance of becoming the head of product. And what I liked about this was at this time, I wouldn't be the one asking the questions, I would be the one giving the answers. So I said, I just need to ensure I set outcome oriented roadmaps. I empower teams to solve problems worth solving. I give them directions and they are going to figure that out. So I was really excited about giving the answers. But what happened was something a little bit different. I had to fight the corporate firewall. Management wanted predictability. They wanted me to tell who does what by when, which features would make to the roadmap so they could promise that to our customers. It was hard. Sometimes I won the battle, but not always. And when I didn't, there were just more Mr. Wise and more backlog managers. And today, what I recognize is the following: people will push you in different directions, no matter what you do. And it's very easy to end up doing anything but product management. And then I have a question for you. Are you doing product management or bullshit management? And now you may wonder, what is bullshit management? What are you talking about? No worries. I have been doing bullshit management for more time than I would like to. Even today, I do a bit of this now and then. What is important is to recognize that so you can act. Now, let me give you my definition of bullshit management before you panic. What I call bullshit management is an art of spending time doing things that bring no value but drain your energy. And the equation behind it is very simple. The more bullshit you handle, the less value you create. It distracts you from doing what matters. But what is bullshit? We need to get that to something more tangible. And the truth is, this is all over the place, either we like it or not. For today, I'm gonna give you just 3 examples, no more. But I hope you can connect to them. The very first one is what I call the waiter anti pattern. Like instead of figuring out what you should achieve, you start collecting requirements from business, and then you realize that the requirements are unrelated to the needs. So it's dinner time, right? I imagine you can be a little bit hungry and so on, but just look at this and imagine the following. You go to a restaurant, you sit there, you are the customer, and then the waiter comes to you and say, "May I take your order?" Say, "Yes, I'd like to take a nice and cold Coke, please." The waiter, "Okay, are you ready to order the food?" "Yes, I want the chef's burger, but without the pickles. I don't like pickles." The waiter, "Okay, chef's burger without pickles. Anything else?" And then you ask the waiter, "Do you have any recommendation?" And the waiter looks at you, "Well, we have the country fries that are amazing. They come with bacon and so on, and cheddar." And you say, "That's it. Give me that. I want that." The waiter will go to the kitchen, pow, hang the order on the wall, and if you're lucky, you are gonna get that burger without the pickles. But only if you're lucky. But now let's step back at this situation. The waiter did a pretty good damn job getting your wants. And that's the job of the waiter, right? You go there, you pay, you get your wants. The waiter couldn't care less about what you needed. Maybe you are diabetic and you shouldn't be drinking that Coke at all. Maybe you are on a strict diet. So eating a burger and fries combined with bacon and cheddar is not that good for you. But well, it's not the waiter's job to figure that out. It's your job to take care of yourself. But now when it comes to the product, if you are a product manager, actually, it is your job to take care of the product. So you need to ensure that you maximize value at the end. So you can only do that by combining business and customer. You cannot act as a waiter. When I started my career, I acted like as a waiter. I would go to business and say, hey, what are the requirements? I would ask this question. And then they would tell me the requirements. And as a waiter, I would say, maybe we can do this thing on top, like a suggestion of a side dish. That's not your job. Your job is to understand how you drive value for customers and collect value for business. It's a bit more complicated. You need to connect the wants with the needs. Now let's look at another type of bullshit, the meetings. When I started my journey, it was still 2012 as a product manager. You know, I used to tell my friends that I was a meeting manager because I was almost all day in meetings. The thing is, I was afraid of rejecting invitation. If someone put my name there, I would just attend the meeting. I became a victim of my calendar. I was not driving my calendar. Shame on me. That was my fault. But I want to ask you a question. When you look at your agenda, how do you structure your time? If you have less than 10 hours of meeting a week, that's all right. As a product person, you're going to talk to many people. It's normal to have exchange and meetings. If it is somewhere between 20 and 30, I would say you need to prioritize. More than 30, something is off because you do need time to do some silent work. And today the situation is more complicated. If we go back before COVID-19, what happened? There was a physical limitation. There were a number of meeting rooms. You would only schedule something if a meeting room was available. So you had to be at least a little bit mindful. I remember working in a building that was 9 floors, and we had only one meeting room per floor. We had to be mindful. And there was also another limit, which was the number of seats. So if a meeting room had 5 seats, maximum 5 people. Reflect on today. How many meeting rooms do you have? If you work in a hybrid way, chances are unlimited. And how many seats do you have? Unlimited again. So what is the result? More meetings with more people. So that's not how you create value. You need to be mindful and think, what am I trying to achieve this week? How do I best organize my calendar? And when you set meetings with people, start with the goal, the context, and think who you need to achieve that goal. Don't let the meeting marathon suck all of your energy. And the last bullshit management we're going to talk today, before I give you some antidote for that. So look at this. How often do you say no to something? A lot of people ask me, what is the key skill of a good product manager? I would say it's the ability of saying no. But it's very hard to say no. People don't like rejections. So if you say no to everything, you're going to have a bloated product backlog with unbearable expectations. There's always more to do than you have capacity to. You are forced to prioritize. And don't say that you're going to put in the backlog, because if it goes to the backlog, people have the expectations, it's going to get out. So you need to figure out how you remove distractions at all from even going to your backlog. Because if you put in the backlog, you are just postponing the conflict. You're going to have that anyway. So let me tell you what doesn't work. My first strategy was flawed. I used to say no 3 times, and if the person would bother to come the fourth time, I would listen. But I got a new nickname there, business blocker. My boss got so many emails. He was so frustrated with me. He said, "Hey, man, you need to start doing something different. I cannot handle this anymore." Then I realized that I failed to empathize with the stakeholders. So I changed my strategy. I started asking questions, but not the why question. Why puts people on defensive mode? I started asking something like this: how does this support our product vision? How does this contribute to our product strategy? How does this drive our current goal? How do we know that this drives value? Which confidence do you have? How do you get this confidence? And the more you ask this kind of questions, the more people are going to reflect. And you're going to realize that people will say no to themselves. So the core is help people say no to themselves. It will require more communication and some homework from your side, but it's important. And here I want to leave you with a thought inspired by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. Every yes you say is a responsibility you take, while no is a decision to remain focused. So, in summary, you need to say no 10 times more than you say yes, because you always have way more to do than you have capacity to prioritize. If you want to know more about it, you can do the bullshit management check. There are a few items here, 10 to be more precise. And you can say, what do you observe in your scenario on a scale from 1 to 5? The more you observe what is here, the more opportunities you have to do things better. For example, output approval. If you are watching this and you have in your workflow something called PM or PO approval, just delete that and thank me later. If you're doubting, just have a look at my book and then you're going to understand why. You don't want to be a bottleneck. You don't want to diminish software engineers and product designers. And the truth about bullshit management is the following: facing it is unavoidable, but dealing with it is an art, and creating value is a secret. Let me help you a little bit out, because I don't want to leave you powerless. I want to give you some equipment, some food for thought. So one of the things that will increase the chance of succeeding is when you align the product management fundamentals. That will help you. And what am I talking about here? You need to have your strategy, discovery, and delivery practices established in a good enough way. It is not about the process you deploy, just to be clear, it is about the mindset you have behind them. Product strategy, it is about simplifying decision making. So you know the direction. That helps people know what not to do. So they can always use the strategy as an anchor and will help them decide what to do next. Product discovery will help you uncover what creates value, and your strategy provides direction where to go. And product delivery, it is all about building what creates value. It is not about maximizing features. And you may look at this, okay, so I start with strategy and I make it sharp and so on, then I go to delivery, to discovery and delivery. Well, one helps the other. So it depends in your scenario, right? If you are in a product before going to market, your strategy will evolve faster. There's a chance every month you are going to tweak that. If your product is already on a growth stage, your strategy will evolve slower. But product delivery helps you uncover what makes sense, helps you drop bad ideas fast enough, and you can connect one to the other. So when you do product discovery right, you will learn that you're wrong fast enough. That helps you adapt your strategy and create value faster. In the book, we cover all of this in detail. For today, I want to take you on a journey. Let's talk about product discovery journey. One of the key elements of the discovery journey is knowing where to land. But here, it has some more aspects. You may say our objective for this quarter, it is to increase our growth by 15%. All right, that's good. It's a good start. But what are the cards you have? What are the trade-offs you can make? And what are the guardrails you need to protect? So look at this. If you say increase your growth, I could just say drop the prices. More people will come to you. Very easy. But then you're not going to be profitable. You're going to hurt your profitability. In this case, you need to understand the trade-off. Maybe you can increase your customer acquisition cost, but you need to ensure you keep the satisfaction level at the current stage. So you need to discuss this to clarify where to land, which trade-offs you can make, and what guardrails to watch for. And how does your audience get their job done? In summary, here it is about understanding what is natural, not what is rational. What are they trying to achieve? What do they struggle with? How do they use your product if they are already interacting with it? What do they like? What don't they like? And here is more connecting to them. And then after that, you can uncover your value drivers. And then you look at the term here, value drivers. What is that? Value drivers, it is solving a problem that is relevant, pursuing an opportunity that is worthwhile. And why do we use the term value driver then? To remind us that everything we do should drive value. And if we don't know, then we shouldn't be doing. So it's just a reminder to drive value. Once you uncover value drivers, you would have to prioritize so you can focus. If you don't prioritize, you're going to have several discussions and you stretch yourself too thin. But then after that, what do? You start shaping the future. You ideate, you explore different solutions. But don't go all in at this moment. You need to confront your solution with reality. What are your assumptions? You may think that people will understand how to use it. You may think they are willing to pay for that. You may think you can do it. So prioritize your critical assumptions and test them as fast as possible. Then you can use evidence to progress. These are the key elements of a discovery journey. And you may look at this as a beautiful process. Actually not. This is a journey, and you are the driver, not the passenger. What is expected from you here? As a driver, you choose when to drive forward, when to take a right turn, left turn, go backward. So it's up to you. You understand your scenario, and you understand how much time you should invest in each things. Here is about showing the things that will help you have a better journey. But you should be mindful. For example, let's say you have a goal, and then once you start exchanging with your audience, you realize that that goal is quite unrealistic to achieve, but you found another opportunity. What about challenging the goal? And what happens when you confront your ideas with reality and they don't survive? What about going back and picking another value driver? So, as a driver, you make decisions. And you may look at this and say, it's very different from what I work, and I would like to get that done, but I don't even know where to start. So I wanted to tell you, to improve how we work, it is all about stepping back a little bit so you can reflect on your scenario and act. This is what I call the product health checks. The third part of the book I call as remaining untrapped, and we have several product health checks. Today I want to give one for you, which is the delivery. And the reason I chose delivery is because generally it lies many opportunities here. When you start implementing something, what is your principle? Do you build it right from the beginning? Meaning no technical debt, 100% test coverage, everything is perfect. It's so perfect that even if nobody uses, you will be unwilling to throw it away. Or your philosophy is first build to learn. Let's make it fast, release for a small portion of our audience, and learn what it makes sense. Then if it doesn't make sense, we throw it away. But if it makes, then we scale, then we pay tech debt off, and so on and so on. What is success for you? More velocity or more value? Just think about it. And do you dare to remove features that don't resist contact with reality? And what about failures? Do you avoid them at all costs as a byproduct killing innovation? Or do you learn from them and share? And when you look at your product backlog, what do you see there? Is it like a 6-year-old Christmas wish list? Or is it something that once you look at your product backlog, you can name the goal you are pursuing at this moment? Do this health check with your team, pick one item at a time and try and do it better. And to finalize here, I want to leave you with a thought, because you always have a choice. You can look at whatever your status quo is and say, I accept it. I'm not going to challenge it. But you remain stuck. That's how it is. But if you dare to challenge it, you have a chance of better tomorrow. And then I ask you, what is your choice? So I want to leave you here with something. The book is just released, as you know. So we have it here as well, Untraping Product Teams. I'm super delighted to receive feedback and support from people worldwide. It has been amazing. I wrote this book because it was too painful for me to be ill-equipped for the job. And I wanted to learn how to face reality. So I helped and I shared stories. And we have a deal here for you. You have the link for my website, and then in a partnership with the publisher, Pearson, you can get 35% off. But here, I want to be very clear. It's only on Pearson. And you can get the printed version and the digital version. But if you order from Pearson, it will be shipped from the USA. So you need to wait a little bit and pay the shipping cost. If you want to get it faster, you can just order in your local Amazon. You will find there. All the links are on my website. And the voucher for Pearson, it is Pereira, just my family name. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'm very curious to see the questions you may have.
Well, we've had a good number of questions. It's coming myself on the other side. All from a gentleman called Ben, funnily enough, not me, a different Ben. It did remind me, I do need to get a copy of your physical copy of the book for the next time we meet, so I can get you to write something lovely on it for me. I don't know what I want you to write yet.
You just need to give me your address, and then I ship one to you.
I'll give you that. I'll give you the money. You deserve it. It's a good book. It's a good book. So yeah, we get some great questions coming in actually from Ben, who is just up the road from me. Not that I'm getting all stalky, but I thought his village name sounded familiar. Yeah, it's very close to me. So I could have invited him down. He could have driven down the road and we could have just done this together. So his first question that he came up with was this. Do you consider the split of hours, so discovery versus delivery, or customer versus internal discussions each week? And this came up, I think, when you were talking about meetings and just all the general bullshit management. So do you consider this split?
Yeah, that's something I heavily discussed there on the book. Because in general, extremes are bad. So what is most common is we go almost all into delivery. So we do a little bit of discovery, kind of 10% of our time goes into that. This leads to feature factory. That's what I have seen. But the other extreme is also bad when we invest almost all the time doing open discovery. Then what happens is we don't deliver anything because we're trying to find the perfect solution. We're trying everything. So what I like doing is a continuous discovery practice by Teresa Torres. And in this case, it's like creating a product trio where the trio is going to invest around 70% of their time, let's say 3 days a week, doing product discovery, clarifying the future, and then 30% collaborating with the team on the present. So it is all about figuring out how to balance present and future. But it's not about creating two teams. One does discovery and the other does delivery. It is the focus. Part of the team will focus on building the present, while part of the team will focus on discovering the future. Generally, it's a 7-30 that works for me. 70% on discovery and 30% on delivery for the trio. And then for the rest of the team, you invert. 70% doing delivery and 30% doing discovery. One of the things would be the definition of discovery and delivery. Many people would have that differently. For me, discovery also entails running experiments and trying out, kind of de-risking the chance of creating something nobody likes.
It's interesting, really useful, and it's something that I often go over, which I can't think exactly. I run an exercise when I say, okay, so you're a product manager or a product owner, and you've got $100 a week to spend, and like, where are you going to split your money? Because the more you take away from the prep, the discovery work, getting things in a state where people can kind of pick up, understand it, and know who to talk to, then the more likely it is that people are going to struggle in doing it. And it's a very delicate balance. I'm not even going to start talking about one of our previous conversations around tech debt. But if you're not investing in allowing people to write decent quality software, not always, but enough time that you haven't got a huge amount of defects coming back up, and that again takes away time when you could be doing something more aligned with seeing that return on investment. So it's very contextual, isn't it? How it could end up being split depending on all the other bullshit that's happening around just the act of discovery and delivery.
For sure, the context matters a lot. But one of the general things I notice is if we try avoiding technical debt from the beginning, then it takes too long to create a solution. But if we don't pay the technical debt, we kill the product. That's what happens. And one of the things software engineers mistrust product managers because they say, hey, let's just get it live. And then you get it live, then the product managers start pushing for the next feature. What happened is the features that actually don't survive contact with reality, you ditch them. So you don't need to pay the technical debt. But the ones that do survive, before you move to the next, pay the technical debt, and then you move to the next. It is important to pay it off timely because the longer it takes, the more expensive it becomes.
So I just saw a quick comment come up from Ben following on from this. Let's have a look. Let's bring that up so you can see. It says, is delivery jam today and discovery jam tomorrow? So emphasis and recognition is heaped on delivery. And Ben, I'm not quite sure if I understand that question. David, can you in for...
I'm not sure if I get what is the meaning of jam today and jam tomorrow, actually.
Well, it's interesting. Is it a jam like you on your guitar? Is it a jam like something you get in a pot? Is it a jam like you're jamming it in? I'm not sure. So let's see, Ben, if you can come back and just give us a bit of clarification, that'd be fantastic. Whilst we do that, I would just I want to pick up something you mentioned, which is related to the discovery phase, I think mostly. And it says you said something along the lines of looking to do what is natural, not what's rational.
Yeah.
And there was a number of little kind of sound bites you came up with during your talk, which I just thought were brilliant. But that one really stuck with me, and I just wondered, could you explain a bit more depth? What do you mean by that? What's natural, not what's rational?
I can explain that with a story. When I joined the first startup, I received a mission to redesign an app. The CEO told me, you have 3 months to redesign this app, and after that, I want to see an increase of engagement of 50%. We were a startup. Increasing 50% was not that big of a deal. The engagement was quite low. But he gave me a target and a solution, 50% engagement, and redesign the app. So I challenged that. I went to the users to understand in their scenario, job they were trying to do. And what turned out was something quite interesting. None of them use any kind of smartphones. They simply didn't use smartphones on their day-to-day. What they used instead were desktop computers. They needed big screens for what they were trying to achieve. It was natural for them to use big screens. It was rational for us to give them a smartphone. Why? That was 2016 in Brazil, and smartphones were becoming increasingly popular. Then we said, the world is going mobile. It's just rational to have that. Everyone's going to use it. Not this specific target audience. For them, was natural still using the computer.
I mean, it reminded me of I'm not sure if it's the same type of thing, but I was talking to Jeff Gotthealth a couple of weeks ago. Got a podcast episode coming out of him this week, actually. And he was explaining how he worked at a company where they were like in a headhunting type website. And the founder, CEO, one day said, that he believed and he'd seen that the job adverts which had lots of description and text, or the CVs which had lots of description, performed better than the ones that didn't. So they put a minimum character count in on the description field. And then what they found was that the people that were inputting the data discovered this and actually didn't want to write lots and lots and lots. So what they were doing was writing white text on a white background to circumvent the character limit, because they didn't want to put the big lengthy descriptions. And so the users just found their way around it. And I think what was rational to him was like, and so I'm not sure if it's quite saying a little bit different, but what was rational to him was, let's put a character limit on. What was natural to them was, this is really crap. How do we find a way to circumvent this? Because this is not working for us.
Yeah.
It's just one of those lovely, like silly stories, but it's so true. There was something else that you said. Well, no, that was it. It was on the founder. And I wanted to loop back to a question that Ben asked a little bit earlier. I should go back and clarify Ben's last one, which was, imagine most founders are heavily invested in their own ideas and won't like the whys, like Mr. Y, when you join as a new PM. Any suggestions for building trust early? And this is a fantastic topic, fantastic question. So, David, what tips have you got for us?
Context matters on this one and depends a lot on the stage of the product. What I would say is in the beginning of the product, the founders should be the product managers. So they should be acting as a product manager to bring it live. And then eventually they will move to something else. But the moment they start onboarding product managers, the idea is a means to an end. So founders don't like challenging the idea, but you need to understand what is the idea for. And you will just help them confront reality. And one of the things I mentioned in the book, founders, for sure, they won't like you challenging their ideas. That's normal. But if you are new there as a PM, it is still your job to maximize value. So if you're seeing something is not going to create value, instead of challenging them, how can you help them see what you're seeing? So what could you do? Maybe you're seeing that the idea is just not going to fly because there's no market for that. So what is a product experiment you could run, get the results, bring the results and tell them, hey, this is what I learned when I ran this experiment here. Do you still want to pursue the idea the way you envision? I have found this opportunity here. So to go to a conversation with a founder, you need to do your homework. Because if you just challenge with empty hands, then it will be like Jeff Bezos said, if all we have is opinion, we go with mine.
It's very true, and I suppose there is a temptation for some people in that situation, which was outlined, to maybe prioritize and just go with the thing the founder wants, even though they figure that actually it may not be the right thing, or running an experiment would be a less, a safer and less costly route. But I suppose the danger of kind of just wanting to say yes and wanting to appease the boss, ultimately the founder, was that then you can't build that trust over time, because all you're showing is that actually you're not being that strong, right? You're being quite weak, and you're just going for the short-term thing which you think is going to make someone happy, rather than the long-term thing which will ultimately result in you being able to do your job properly.
Yeah, and it's like the story I shared. The startup, the founder clearly wants a redesign of the mobile. He was a big fan of this auction mobile app, and he was the one ideating that. He was driving for this. I didn't ask him to try something else. I just went out and I started talking to customers, and I was understanding their scenario. And what I did actually was to run an experiment. And when I ran the experiment, I saw that actually we could not only drive 50% engagement up, we could drive 250, because then they actually started using. And then the founder came to me and said, how did you come to this result? What was the magic redesign you did? I said, actually, I created something else. He went ballistic with me. And then I walked him through the discoveries, the interviews, and everything. Said, hey, before you shout at me and before you complain everything, let me tell you what I discovered. And you can still decide if you want to redesign the thing here. I'm not recommending. And then the founder looked at me and said, nice catch. Nice catch. Maybe the app is something for the future, not for now. So then he pivoted. He said, actually, what we want to achieve is to help car owners in Brazil sell their cars without bureaucracy. It doesn't matter if we're selling that through the phone or something. That's the objective. That's the business model. He said, I did believe the app was the right thing to do. But given this, what you're saying, it's not. Maybe we review this in 1 or 2 years. That's what I said after.
So thank you for that, David. It's it's a difficult one, and I've always seen it dealt with very not dealt with the founder product manager type scenario, because then when you do ask the product manager They say, "Well, what are you thinking? What experiments are you going to run? How do you know what the clients want? How do you, was asking a serial customer?" And when the response is, "Oh, well, it's just this," John does all of that. I just put stuff on the backlog. It's like, okay, right.
Yeah. And of course, it's the question, right? What are you in need for? If you are there to exchange your time for the money, you are doing the job and you're doing all you can and you don't want to challenge, that's okay. It's a choice you make. I'm not judging that. I am just the kind of person who wants to have some fun and ensure that I'm creating value. And if I cannot connect to that, I risked the job. It's true. I
Mm.
risked the job. It was just my first month, and I decided to say what I thought because I said I had the choice there. I could just do as the CEO said, and then goes wrong. I say, well, you said that. I did what you said, but
Mm.
I just not me. So I say what I think, and sometimes I receive a top down, and then I say, all right, at least I tried.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You've got to try for your own sanity and your own growth over time. Keeping one eye on the clock, and the time's kind of quickly slipping away from us. But Ben came back with a bit of a clarification, which I think makes perfect sense. Which is he thinks the value of delivery is the thing that's most often favoured more than insight. Discovery has a longer time to pay back, and I think this is a really, I don't mean to, let's get rid of that. I find that an interesting comment because I definitely experienced that in organisations that I would say don't really have that product mindset. It's more of the kind of IT tech mindset, and there's more of that kind of supply and demand model happening. That I think that, and when delivery takes a long time to get out as well, I think it's harder to make a case for discovery when the feedback, the payback on that is so far in the future. But
Yeah.
people don't see why it's necessary. They're going to forget it ever happened, and it's all about delivery, which is why I hate the word delivery. I wish a word like creation or something else was a bit, I don't know, because delivery disguises that you deliver it and you're done. It's like a parcel, and you get a parcel delivered
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
not.
done, but it's not done. That's when the work starts.
Yeah, lately I have been working on something. I use the words delivery and discovery, but I see that people get too much bugged in that. And then I'm saying
Mm,
it's a product game. You do need to do discovery. If you don't do that, you're just going to realize too late that your idea was wrong. And
mm,
discover doesn't need to take long. It's how you do it. There are different experiments you can run, different ways of discovering. It's like when I wanted to put a cohort out there about product discovery actually, and there were many angles to tackle.
mm,
What would I do and so on? First thing I did, I posted on LinkedIn. That was an experiment. I posted on LinkedIn and I saw how people react to that, and based on the reactions I decided what I would do. I put a survey later, collect some feedback on what people struggled with product management. I didn't ask them like, where do you struggle with a product discovery?
mm,
I said, where do you struggle when you are creating products? And then I saw some things there they struggle. And something that I discovered was that actually their biggest struggle is how to convince management to invest time in testing ideas. I said, so here's where I need to do something. And instead of creating the course and getting feedback from people and see how good that was, I put a landing page live within the message of what I wanted to give them as a result. And I saw how many people subscribed. So I kept the first group very small, limited to 10 people. And then I did it in a very cozy way. We were very close, and I got feedback and I improved the course and so on. So I created a product discovery cohort using product discovery. So the thing is, discovery doesn't need to take time, it needs to be structured. And when you combine discovery and delivery, it means you are going to make incremental bets. So you don't go all in. And what happens very easily is a few people think the idea is good, then the idea becomes a priority, and then we are working on this for 3 to 6 months. And that's what discovery is going to prevent. You are going to iterate in the ideas in smaller cycles. First investment is an investment that takes a few days, then maybe a few weeks, and then you see the value and you always decide if you're going to invest further. The difference is if you have 10 ideas that start, big chance that you are going to have only one idea that will make to the product because you drop all the others before.
Yeah, it's a similar challenge in that, particularly if we look at a larger organization that's on a bit of a journey. Is how do you take a amorphous blob of an idea and then break it down to small things where you can decide to take a certain path through, like incrementally testing your idea and seeing how much people are willing to put a bit of skin in the game. I mean, it reminds me of Alberto Savoy's, like, I think it's a brilliant book, The Right It. Has some brilliant guidance. Along with basically what you were saying, David, and it just kind of lays it all out as to how can we test those ideas? How can we see what investment people are willing to make before we invest in creating something that's big and chunky? And I guess it's much easier when it's just you making the decisions and it's your company. It gets much more difficult when you're then battling against a big corporation or loads of incumbent structure or culture, or people trying to move from more of an outcome. I was moving from an output to more of an outcome frame of mind. And like Ben's comment that has just come up here is asking, does the book cover joining as a PM in an established company, a startup, a 500 plus company? Because it's a context will determine how much discovery and opportunity you have to try new things.
Yeah. So the book is based on my experience, which mainly related to startups and scale-ups. I have coached some 500 plus companies. I've worked also for some. And the thing is, the feedback I have received from the readers, it has been quite interesting because I wrote the book mainly focusing on product managers from 3 to 7 years of experience. That was the initial focus I had. But then I start getting feedback from young product managers say, I've never gotten so much clarity in my life. Now I understand how to bring things down to earth. And then some senior product managers from scale ups, from also startups and big corporations start telling me, this is awesome. Although I have been playing this game for a while, when I read your book, there were many insights that helped me with my current challenge. So I'm seeing different perspectives because the book, it is about helping you see some things that in general help. It's more about the principles behind it. So I give many insights, many different traps, and they would apply to many company size because I have seen all of these traps from Brazil to Germany, from small startups to scale up giant corporations, automotive sector, public sector, and all the things. So they are spread all over the place. So I believe anyone that would read the book would get at least considerable amount of insights.
I can attest to that. It's a brilliant book. It is a brilliant book, and I think this is where it's not a playbook. It's not a recipe for how to succeed, but there's enough really practical, sensible advice in there for you to be able to say, "Let me go and experiment with that." And I think I love books where you can read it. You can read it on the way into work, or read it before you start work if you're working remotely, and then say, "Oh, today I'm going to try that. Today I'm just going to take that one thing and see how that works in my context," because I think that's really powerful. And I think that's what helped me hugely working in. I've had more experience working in phenomenally large organizations doing this type of stuff than I have in the smaller ones. I think this being able to have a resource which enables you to try new things, like even in situations where maybe you think it wouldn't work, it's always very surprising. What can work if you give it a go and you go in there with the right attitude. David, I know we're almost at time. We haven't got 10 minutes or so left, and we've been through our questions. I'm wondering if you were to pass on one big piece of advice for, let's say, people that might be listening who have been a product owner in an agile space where it hasn't been kind of very producty, and they're looking to find ways to kind of really embrace product management, let's say. Is there any particular tip that you could provide them to help them on their journey?
Sure. One of the things I tell people is don't try to lecture anyone. Because if you try to lecture, people will not listen to you. What people will pay attention to is results. So instead of talking about the work, do the work and show the results. The more you take risks of doing something different, and the more you create results, the more people are going to listen to you. So take some risks. You don't need to change everything at once. What I tell many people is, if you're trapped in the feature factory, don't panic. You're not alone. Many people are there. I've been there several times. What you can do, for example, is start with one small thing. Look at the features you have and talk about the assumptions. What are you assuming to happen? And then ask, how could I test that? And then you can have better conversations with the results in mind. And then you can get support from management and from somebody else to start changing. But if you try convincing them to do that, you would be talking about the work instead of doing the work. So it is hard to be a product manager, a product owner. But if you want to succeed, you need to do what most people don't do: take risks.
Sage advice. Thank you very much, David. And thank you for making this time. I know we've had this was a long time coming for us, but no, I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been brilliant. I always love listening to what you have to say, and it never fails to astound me, right? How many I know you always seem to come out of a few things which are new. Which it just still surprises me. I mean, your
That's
brain
nice.
is phenomenal. If people can find you on LinkedIn, people should absolutely you get hold of your book in whatever format they like. But yeah, really get hold of that. Are you speaking at any conferences this year, or doing any other events in the foreseeable months?
I have actually. I will be speaking in Munich in October. So there will be an event called Just Product. I will be giving a workshop there of
Nice.
product discovery, and I
Great.
will give a talk also about breaking free from bullshit management. And I will talk about strategy and the event called DL Summit in Cologne. So that's going to be in November. I will be in this both events so far. And maybe it's still not clear. Maybe I will be in Productize again in Lisbon.
I can't believe Andre. I'm talking to Andre on Friday. I will have a word. I'll find out what's going on. So I'm definitely going to productize. That's my holiday for the year. But October's insanely busy, and November as well is getting really busy. So many conferences. If you can send me links to the ones you're going to, David, I'll make sure that we get them shared on this
Sure.
chat as well, because I'm sure people would love to know about those. Yeah, David, thank you so much, my friend. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and all the best with your continuing promotion of your brilliant book. Everybody, thank you very much for coming along. And Ben, particularly, thank you for all your questions. I will drop you a message, Ben, because you are just at the road for me. And maybe one day we can meet up for a coffee or something. But anyway, thank you for listening. And David, again, thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.